So this is a Layens style swarm trap that holds 7 frames that are Layens size, and I'll explain what that size is in a minute. It's basically a deeper frame than our standard hive here in America. It's a European style, so it's a much taller, deeper frame, but it's made for horizontal hives, so it's a lot not as wide as our hives. And this is a swarm trap that uses those frames so that when you catch the swarm and they start growing, you can simply transfer it to one of the Layens horizontal hives. And I'm trying to do that style of beekeeping this year for my first time. I've kept Langstroth hives my whole life, but I decided to do a few horizontal hives just so I have the experience and can show people how to do it. This particular hive has 2 entrances. This one, you see the entrance on the short side, the side that's not so wide, and there's an entrance on the back side you can't see on the opposite, the longer side on the back side. Both entrances have a disc on them, and this disc can be dialed to be fully open as this one is. It can be rotated around to just a queen excluder, and then can also be rotated around to just a breathing hole that doesn't let bees out, so that once it gets caught, bees are caught, you can kind of spin the wheel around, close the bees in, and load it in a truck or car and take it away. So the idea is, again, the inside of this box is I've rubbed it down with propolis already on all 4 sides, and it contains 7 frames that are wired, and they hold wax foundation. And when you buy this kind of hive frame, the wax is not melted into the wires yet, because if they sold it that way and shipped it, the combs would sag and buckle, and you really only want to put the combs in the frames just before you put it out and start to use it for the first time. So I'm going to show you in the next series of video how to melt the wire melt the foundation onto the wire using a 12-volt battery recharger. You can also just use a 12-volt car battery if you want. And so other than that, the other thing we'll do is also show you how to use lemongrass oil as a lure. It kind of mimics the national pheromone, and so I'll just show you how to do that. This particular swarm box would take 2 tubes, plastic tubes of lure. Each tube is half filled with the pheromone lure. So with that, the next shot I'll show you the top of the box when I take the lid off, so you can see how the frames fit tightly to make a lid. Okay, this is the top of the Layens swarm trap, and I'm going to remove the outer cover, which is basically a wooden top that's been has a metal cover on it, and you can see the 7 frames of the Layens hive. The way they're made is there's very little tolerance, and they fit pretty tightly together to form sort of the inner top for the hive. So it's a nice tight fit. And if you look closely, I don't know if you can see it in this shot, let me zoom in a little, you can see the wires that are in the top of each frame. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. The wires that are basically threaded through these frames to hold the foundation. So now we'll look at each frame and put some, we'll look at the frames, and then we'll add foundation to them, and then put our pheromone lures in there, and then we'll be ready to set the trap out to attract bees. So this is one of the Layens frames to show you how deep it is compared to one of our hives, and I'm just holding it in front of the yellow background of the hive body, and you can see the wires in there that we're going to melt the foundation on. And those wires are there to strengthen the combs until the bees draw the wax out, and help support the combs so they don't collapse. So that's our job next, is to put foundation in these frames, and there's 7 of them. So the process of adding the foundation to the frame begins with first putting the top of the frame towards you, and I'm standing behind the camera, and then raise the bottom of the frame with a coffee cup. And you want it so that if you look at the corners of this frame, this is basically one continuous stainless steel wire that's threaded from one end to the other. And what we're going to do is use a battery charger and complete the circuit between the 2 ends of the wire, and the wire will heat up and melt into the wax. So before I add the sheet of foundation, I want to show you where the hookups are on the ends of the corners of the frames. So this is the right corner, and you can see there's a little loop on top of the bar, and that's for hooking the battery terminal or alligator clip from a charger to complete the circuit. And you have a similar end on the other end of the wire on the other end of the frame, and you simply complete the circuit across there to melt the foundation into the frame. Okay, so the first thing is to lay a sheet of foundation gently into the frame and position it so that the bottom of the foundation, or it's really the top, actually touches the top of the frame, and it's balanced, evenly spaced on both sides of the frame. And then we're simply going to hook the charger up and start melting the wax. Oops, don't have enough cord. Let's see. And it'll take 10 or 15 seconds. And what you want to do is sort of look at the wax, and as it starts to melt, you'll start to see the wire appear as the wax foundation seeks onto the, and I see it appearing now. And when you see it, you stop. And then just let it cool a second. And you can see that the wire has appeared melted into the wax. If you keep the current on there, it of course will melt all the way through, and that's not what you want. And now it's had enough time to cool, and now you can pick it up, and you can see that the foundation is secure. All right, and once you get the wax melted in, you want to store this straight in the swarm trap, because you don't want and you want to keep it in a cool place until you're ready to put it out for trapping bees. So I'm just going to put it into the high body, which is sitting off to the side, and we'll do another coat. So again, take the frame, support the bottom of it on a coffee cup, take a sheet of foundation, position the sheet of foundation so it's touching the top of the frame, which is at the bottom, and make sure it's more or less centered. And then we're going to apply current across the wire to melt the wire. I got to give myself some room here with the wire. I got it all tangled. Of course I do. All right, maybe we got it now. All right, one pole. And again, we're looking for melting of the wire. See it appear into the foundation. It usually takes somewhere like 10 to 15 seconds. I'm starting to see it now. I'm going to go a little longer, and I'm going to stop now. Let it cool a second. And again, you can see the foundation is now secured in the wire. Again, we're going to store it straight up and down so the foundation won't sag. And we'll do another. Again, support the bottom on a coffee cup. Put a sheet of foundation on the frame with the bottom of the foundation touching the top frame, and apply current. And the wire's starting to appear, and I'm going to stop now. Let it cool a second, and again we have the wire melted into the foundation. I'll do one more. And I think that's enough of a demo. wheel. And again, it takes 10 to 15 seconds for the wires to start to appear as it melts into the wax. I'm starting to see it now. We'll go a little bit, and that's enough. And that should do it. Okay. All right, I'll just finish the other 3 frames, and then I'll show how to just load the pheromone tubes. Okay, now the last step is to load a pheromone lure into plastic tubes that will be placed in. They can be taped into the hive, or I'm just going to set mine on the swarm trap floor. It's clean, and it's not going to bother anything being on the bottom. The whole point is just to have odor emanating from the hive and to help convince scout bees that it's worthy of their investigation. And just to explain what's going on with this, lemongrass oil is a pretty good mimic of the Nasonov gland pheromone that bees use when they mark a cavity that they're interested in, telegraphing to their sisters that this might be a good place to live. What happens is scouts find a cavity. If they think the volume is adequate and it's dry and it's got the right conditions for a hive to move into, a swarm to move into, the scout, before she leaves, will often mark it with her Nasonov pheromone, which is a mixture of nerolic acid, geraniol, and citral. Scientists at USDA ARS many years ago had a blend of those compounds they used as a swarm lure, but other people discovered that lemongrass oil is a pretty good mimic and is pretty good at attracting swarms to these swarm traps. And the idea is these plastic microcentrifuge tubes, what you'll do is we'll fill each one of these tubes. I got 2 of them for this trap. I'm going to fill these tubes half full, snap the cap down, and then some people also put them in a Ziploc bag. I'm just going to put them with the cap snapped shut onto the floor of the hive and then position it where I want it. So it's a pretty simple thing. Here's the source bottle for lemongrass oil. Got a little pipetter, and we'll just collect some. And again, you only need to fill this tube about halfway full. Let's see. We'll go a little more. Let's see. That's close. We'll go a little more. There we go. That's pretty good. And again, snap it shut. Oops. I'm going to knock over the bottle if I don't watch what I'm doing. There we go. Make sure it's snug. And this oil will leach out of there slowly. It won't just, if you left the top off or had some kind of cotton wick, it would evaporate pretty quickly, and the odor wouldn't last but a day or so. With this plastic cap snap shut, it's more of a slow release, and it's there for, days to weeks, depending on the temperature and other conditions, but it's not gone overnight like it would be. And that's probably good enough. That's a little more than I need. That's all right though. All right, and again, snap it shut. And for the 7-frame Layens hive that I have, this is more than enough lure to attract swarms. So just showing you the 2 tubes, more or less half full of pheromone. I don't know if you can see that. They're half full. All right. And again, I'm just going to drop those on the floor of the hive, put the lid on, and then position the hive where I want it. All right, so just one final comment on the swarm trap. In general, a lot of people recommend putting these swarm traps between 15 and 20 feet off the ground, and certainly I think you'll catch more swarms that way. I'm going to just actually set this one about 5 feet off the ground. I've got a stand. I don't have it here with me. I'm at the lab loading the pheromone and fixing the frames. But I'm going to take it out in a few minutes and put it on a stand that's only about 5 feet, 4.5, 5 feet off the ground. It's going to be on the north side of a house to where it's shaded. That's very important. You don't want to put these swarm traps in full sun. You want them shaded. And of course, if you put them 15 to 20 foot up, it's best to put them on the north side of trees and under the shade. You don't want them to get too hot because the swarm, of course, wants to be comfortable and not have to thermoregulate a lot. So I'm going to try it on a stand that's only 5 feet off the ground and just see what happens. Today is March 13th, so what I'm going to do is check it daily and just to kind of see when the scouts show up and to see if I catch a swarm. And I'm really just going to put this in my backyard. I know I've seen bees on flowers around, but I don't know of any active colonies within, other than the ones on campus that I have within the block where I live. So it'll be interesting to see if I catch anything in the area. But anyway, I've got a few more swarm traps that I have to paint and prepare. And what I'll do is the whole sequence, once I catch a swarm, I may videotape my location and where I put them and show you when scouts are coming and going, and then show you when it actually catches a swarm. And then, of course, we transfer it to a horizontal hive once we get a swarm. Also later on, we'll make a video of just capturing swarms, which is always fun too, just going out and catching swarms that are hanging on tree limbs and things like that. This is the time of year for doing that, March, April, May. So until next time, talk to you later. Bye.